Do you want to do more than follow orders? Think outside of the box and manifest your dreams? Then you've come to the right show. Welcome to the award-winning podcast, Holding Down the Fort by U.S. VetWealth. I'm your host, Jen Amos, a Gold Star daughter, veteran spouse, and entrepreneur. For Season 9, we continue our partnership with the Rosie Network to highlight motivational stories of personal growth, financial awareness, and autonomy in our military community. We're also excited to continue showcasing our partnership with Blue Water Advisors. Now, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. Got a question for you. What are some bedtime rituals you have with your children to help them with sleep and anxiety? Well, Colleen Marchi encourages families to have Sir William, the Brave Knight from the Brave Knights, which empowers kids to control their fears. Colleen shares her journey as a military spouse, mother, and reluctant, and she wanted to stress that, reluctant entrepreneur. Colleen created the Brave Knights to help her son cope with nighttime fears during her husband's deployment. Years later, it evolved into a business aimed at helping other families. She discusses the psychology behind the Brave Knights kit, the importance of addressing children's fears, and valuing self-care as a parent. Lastly, Colleen highlights her experience with the Rosie Network's Service to CEO program and offers advice for aspiring military-connected entrepreneurs, reluctant entrepreneurs. Colleen, it was such a pleasure having you on our show. I want to remind you all that in addition to the podcast, you can watch our YouTube interview of Colleen. And if you want to get a hold of her, go ahead and check out the show notes of this episode. This is episode 209. You can check on your preferred podcast that you're listening to right now or visit our website, holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. And if you're listening to this at the time that this episode has been released, it'll be the first episode on the top of the page, holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. Otherwise, you can go in the search bar and type in the numbers 209, that's episode 209, to get her episode and get access to the show notes. Thanks so much and enjoy this conversation with Colleen. All right, so we have Colleen Marchi with the Brave Knights. Colleen, welcome to Holding Down the Fort by U.S. VetWealth.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen. I really appreciate this. This is a great opportunity.
Yes. And I have to say that coming for us, it's been taking some time to coordinate this. So I'm just really grateful to have finally caught you in your busyness of a schedule.
Yeah. You know how it goes. It's being a entrepreneur and a military spouse. My husband's now a veteran, but the caretaker responsibilities of the rest of my family and everything don't seem to slow down. But I think that's our strength, I guess, is juggling all the balls and keeping them in the air at all times. So I appreciate your flexibility.
Oh, absolutely. And as I was saying to you offline, if there's anything I've learned in the 200 plus episodes of interviewing people in the military community, it's that you have to be flexible. No choice but being flexible. So speaking of which, I know you hinted a little bit of what's going on in your life. Why don't you share with our audience, first thing that comes to mind, what keeps you busy or excited nowadays about life?
Well, my children. So I actually came up with my product that we're going to talk about here in a second for my son when he was young, but my children now are teenagers, and one is 18, headed off to college, going to Citadel Military College. So he's going Army ROTC. So it's a huge transition in my life that's been keeping me very busy. And my youngest son is 17, about to be a senior and in high school. And so it's just a whole different transition as it was for my husband to transition from Army into retirement. So I feel like it's constant change going on right now in our life, and it's exciting and scary and all of the things all at once. So we're kind of trying to just grab a hold of everything and soak in all those memories and moments that we get. So been busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it. As long as everyone still has all their body parts intact, I feel like that's a good thing. They're still alive and kicking, and they're still sane to an extent.
Yep. So it's been an exciting season for us, but emotional.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I bet it's a mixed bag of emotions for sure. Speaking of which, you mentioned that your youngest is 17 now. And I have to say that just blows my mind. Like knowing what I know about your business, which we'll get to here in a second, I know that it's been a long journey with your youngest son and also with the creation of the Brave Knights. So why don't we go back in time? Speaking of your youngest son, it actually blows my mind to think that he is already 17, considering how the Brave Knights started with him when he was young. So tell us that story of how the Brave Knights came to be and how it was really not intended to be a business. It was really like intended to just sleep better, right?
Yeah. So my youngest son really was doing great. And then all of a sudden just hit that age where most kids go to get a little bit more aware of the world and outside of their family. And it happened in time and coincided with my husband's deployment. And he was just missing his favorite protector. He was scared at night, every night. And I was trying everything to keep everything going. We have 3 boys, and my other 2 never really had such a huge problem with this. So it was kind of new territory to me. You know, my background's in psychology. I've been a school counselor and worked with kids as a therapist. This was all new to me for my own son. And so I was going, okay, let me work through the problem and help him. And everything I tried, nothing was working. It started to happen just at nighttime where he wanted me to stay with him longer and trouble falling asleep, staying asleep. Then it started spilling over into daytime. So drop-offs at school were hard. Every little, visit to the park, making sure he was checking on me. And I knew that life filled with anxiety was not a life I wanted for him. And I saw it grow. And so we tried everything. And my husband was so frustrated not being able to fix the problem for us. And I was trying to keep it kind of quiet for him, but he could see how exhausted I was. And I started to have anxiety over nighttime. Like the sun would go down and I would feel that like, oh, I know it's coming, more sleepless nights. So one day I dropped off my boys at school and our kindergarten teacher kind of saw me, like really saw me. And she pulled me aside and said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm 100% not okay." And so I went into the bathroom to have like a slow, quiet moment by myself. And there was a sign and it said, "Tonight, when you go to bed, give your troubles and worries to mom. Don't worry, she'll be up." And I was like, I know, but I don't want to be. It was just like a funny little poster that somebody put up. And so I thought, what do I do when I need to give up something and I need to just not stress and ruminate over it and let it perseverate in my head? And I was like, I need to find something tangible for him to give those worries to and feel safe and protected. And I wanted him to feel autonomous and confident and connected to something. And so I went home and I dressed up as little bear in our Brave Knights, our first little Brave Knights costume. And I picked him up and I told him, you're going to get to give up your worries tonight to somebody and he's going to stay in guard and protect you. And my son finally looked at me and was like, "Thank you, woman. Like, I've been telling you that there's been something coming in my room to scare me." And I kept telling him, "You're fine. You're safe." He knows what we do is like trying to just solve the problem for him. And all he wanted to do was be heard. And he wanted to feel safe and feel secure and protected in his own little room in his bed. And the first little flashlight we made was a rudimentary one with just like a little cross, and he would shine it under the wall or, under the bed and in the closet. And it's grown then into the tale of the Brave Knights. Every night my boys would snuggle up and ask me, where did the Brave Knights come from? And what did they do? And what training did they go through? And it grew just organically through their excitement over this little guy that would protect them. And we slept. And it was amazing and peaceful and just a beautiful solution to sleepless nights for our family.
I'm curious, considering how you were a former school counselor, how would you say your background influenced helping your son?
So much, because so many families I knew were just, and we talk about it, we'd go drop off the kids and moms would go for a walk or hang out and go get a cup of coffee. And they all kind of talk about it and complain like, oh, sleeplessness is just a thing you have to deal with as a parent. And I knew the one thing that I had learned is just being a mom, but also being a military spouse was my only time I got to myself, and I needed it. I needed the restoration, and I knew the long-term benefits of sleep and how proper sleep hygiene helped. So for me, I just kept rejecting that idea that just because you're a parent, you have to give up sleep. That just seemed like something that I knew was counterintuitive to, proper mental health. So when we tried different things that were out there and talking through things with him and nothing was working, I knew that I had at least the skills to kind of come up with something. I knew what he needed. I knew the 3 things that he needed was that autonomy, to feel like he could do something on his own, because they're at that stage when they're like in, late toddlerhood, early childhood of like, I want to do it myself. They want to be feeling in control. I knew he needed to feel confident and like, I did it, mommy. That was like the best feeling that they did when they could do something. And I knew he needed to have a connection to something. And so those three things were forefront of my mind when I was coming up with this. Even though I was exhausted, I was like, okay, when I make something for him, he needs to have these three things so that it's not just, here's another little lovey stuffy that you can hold at night, because he had a million of those. He had fish. I bought it. Here's your fish that are going to keep you safe. And he needed a buy-in. He needed to know that there was something behind it. And so it really is backed in science and backed in psychology. It's not just another adorable teddy bear. It's a toy with a purpose. There's a real reason behind this and why it works. And so it's instrumental in creating this.
Yeah. And also from a mental health standpoint, I love that in order for you to take care of your sons and your family, you needed to find a way to take care of yourself. And I often hear, I'm not a parent myself. I'm a fur parent, but I don't know if that counts. But like, I often hear amongst parents that there's a struggle of being self-sacrificial. Like it's almost like synonymous to being a parent is being self-sacrificial. So can you speak on that topic of maybe the double-edged sword of that? Like it's probably more harmful than it is helpful as a parent to be self-sacrificial.
It is. That's probably the hardest thing. And I struggle with it. I am in my family, my entire family. I'm everybody's everything, right? I'm the one, even to my fur baby. My dog woke me up last night at 3 a.m. to go potty, not my husband. She knew what was right. She knew who would help her, right? She knew who would wake up. So it's so common as a woman, I think, to do that. And as a mom, but as a parent to give that up. And for me, it's a really struggle to find that balance. But sleep is the one thing that I knew that if I had to give everything during the day to, my family, that I needed to have one little piece that I could carve out for me. And so for me, that balance was my night times. My night times were sacred of, even if it's only 6 or 7 hours, I need that time to reset and restore. And we had talked a little bit before about dementia and other things, but there's so many benefits that come for physical health through your sleep. And I knew it. I knew that it was mood. I knew that it was productivity for me during the day. I knew that it was that same thing for my children. And so while I may struggle being able to prioritize myself during the day and give up things that I should be doing for my kids, I knew at night the one thing I could not give up was I couldn't function on lack of sleep. Balls were falling, right? We would juggle. We talked about this before, how many balls were falling. And my biggest concern was, if this is what I'm going through, imagine at 4 or 5 years old trying to function and develop interpersonal relationships for the first time and learn to share when you're so tired and so cranky. And so I think that's the hardest balance for us as a parent. Like, put my child in front of me at all costs, but then find one thing that I can do. And sometimes it's a walk, and sometimes it's sleep, and sometimes it's this, and it changes, but in every stage of our life. But I'm a huge, huge proponent of that for our kids. We talk often about our customer, right? Everyone always asks when you're an entrepreneur, who's your target customer? Well, we don't think of her as a target customer. We think of her as the main character in the story, because let's face it, moms are the main character in everybody's story. And we talk about that, about how she's willing to give up everything for her kids. How do we help her and let her feel like a success for her family and give her a little bit of herself back? How do we help that main character in that story? And in turn, she's helping her family, which makes her feel great. So
yeah, it's great to have you as a resource to be in a mother's corner and say, hey, we got you. We can help delegate some of the things that you have to deal with, so that at least in this case, you can actually get some sleep.
Yep. Yeah, it's huge. That's like my biggest win, is when I hear mom be like, my child finally slept. And that to me is worth every single struggle that we've been through since I came up with this to now where we are now. It's been amazing. So
yeah, actually, I was looking at your Amazon reviews for your product, and that was the key thing that pointed out to me was the whole family is sleeping again.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, you know what it's like when you get a night's sleep and you just feel like a different person. It is been such a gift to be able to give that to people. And the teddy bear is so sweet and cuddly and helps during daytime and all of that. And they go on adventures together and they help kids with I had one little girl who the mom sent me a video. She got her ears pierced because she got Sir William's ears pierced. So her little brave knight went in and got his ears pierced and was brave.
Aww.
And then she could do it. And so it's been an amazing thing to be able to see that confidence and that kind of empowerment be spread through sleep and doctor's visits and brave knights have gotten their teeth cleaned. It's been fun to see.
It's amazing how that safety that the brave knight can give at night has bled into other aspects of the child's life. Like they're able to practice autonomy and self-sufficiency and confidence because they're able to do that in one area and it bleeds into other areas. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And that's our goal. We want to create a little magical kingdom for kids to go where they feel that it's like free of fear and it's strong and empowerment. And I think that when you learn to conquer one little thing, whether it's tying your shoes, sleeping in your bed, going down this big slide, whatever it is, then all of a sudden you're like, that's a learned behavior. I can do that. I can do something bigger. And that's how we grow and become empowered and confident. And it's been fun to see.
Yeah. Well, I'm very curious to know about the psychology behind the Brave Knights kit. So walk us through what people get in the kit and the intention behind each item.
So our Brave Knights kit comes with 3 items, and they're all designed to help children identify whatever's bothering them, those fears, address them, and ultimately overcome them. And they work in 3 simple steps. So this is our little Brave Knight, Sir William, and he's so sweet. And his little hood comes on or off. So nighttime, you kind of put the hood up and on, and he's ready for duty, to report to duty and protect that room and keep them safe. And then daytime, the hood can come off and they can take them on adventures and go to grandma's house and go to the doctor and all sort of fun stuff. So he's kind of a ritual of that. And so they give up their worries to him and he stays on guard to protect their room and keep them safe all night long. And so it's nice. It's like a battle buddy, right? For the little one in there. And honestly, for the parent, because someone else is on duty and they get to clock off for a few hours and enjoy sleep. Next comes our storybook. So it's beautifully illustrated. We have this gorgeous illustrator come in and bring the Brave Knights to life. And it tells the tale of the Brave Knights and it tells how it helps. And it goes through the story of how he can help little prince or princess kind of feel safe in their room. And at the back of the book, there's a personalized knighting ceremony. And so that further connects and bonds and creates that attachment. So the family gathers around and you go through this sweet little ritual of like knighting the little prince or princess. And Sir William pledges his loyalty and love and devotion to that little prince or princess. So they feel so brave and connected and strong and in the Brave Knights little universe. And then lastly comes the projecting flashlight. This is the magic. So it comes in pink or blue. And it shines 8 different images on the walls, under the bed, in the closet, clearing the room of anything scary. So this is where the empowerment comes from. First, they give up their worries. Then they feel connected to the Brave Knights. And this is the empowerment where they feel that they're a part of clearing the room of any of those nightmares or scary shadows or things that might play tricks on them. And it helps kids kind of in the driver's seat and feel in control rather than fear. Overwhelms us and lets us feel vulnerable, and empowerment feels strong and like you can handle everything. And so that projecting flashlight is probably the favorite piece. The teddy bear goes with them everywhere. The story is very sweet, but that projecting flashlight is the piece that really differentiates us from every other sweet little teddy bear. Is it really gives kids control.
Yeah, I just love the entire process of like having the teddy bear, and I like the hoodie, like putting the hoodie on and then taking it off. Like it's like that transitional moment of like, okay, we're going to go to bed, or okay, it's the daytime. I think just the physical act of having your Brave Knight with you, and then like you said, the flashlight. I mean, wow, what an empowering, simple piece of equipment or of a weapon to have at night. And I just love the options of different like lights it'll show like on the wall. And I'm curious about like the designs. Like how did you decide like, oh, we can switch the designs of how the light portrays onto the wall? Like tell us about that.
It was a fun experience because our illustrator's phenomenal. His name is Bert Farash. He is a video game designer, which we knew because eventually that is our goal, is to kind of be able to branch into something. So we searched long and hard for him, and he was really helpful in this. So I would come up with these ideas. I'm a terrible artist, but I would sketch something and send it to him like, this is what I want. And he was like, he has young children too. And so he really understood it. So he would come back. So we have all these amazing sketches back and forth between us of like, what about this? So there's some of like Sir William in the little superhero pose on there. There's some of all of the Brave Knights. So we have a family of Brave Nights that I've kind of created so that there's future growth if we're ready to expand into that. There's one of him with a halt with his hands kind of. So some kids want to put that up there where it's like one more sign of like, don't come in here. And so there's 8 different images and children really get to pick the one they want and what they're feeling. And it's just a fun ritual before bed of like, clear the room, get into bed, feel safe and go to sleep. It's no different than somebody going through and saying, did I lock that front door? Let me go check that light is off. And I hear a lot of parents saying, gosh, I wish I would have had that when I was a kid. I would run down the hallway and jump into bed. This would have been a much more calming routine. And it's settling for the kids. And it puts a finite period to it because the kids are worried at night that bedtime routine can stretch and grow. And this is like, oh, we cleared the room. We're ready to go. Sir William's on duty. I'm going to go to bed. And they just feel connected and safe and protected. And
Yeah, I just love that. I was thinking before we hopped on, I was like, what used to make me scared of the dark when I was younger? For me, it was nightmares. Like I would just wake up in the middle of the night. I would have these dreams where I was like running from something or I like fell through something and then I'd wake up like kicking and then I'm just suddenly awake. And I had to, try to self-soothe myself, but it was like a shocking experience, And so just the thought of even if your kids wake up from a nightmare to know that the brave knight, Sir William will be there. I think must be incredibly reassuring for them.
Yes, it is. That's been the neatest part for me is that kids have a nightmare and my son's nightmare happened to be a dinosaur coming in. I kept saying, there is no dinosaur.
Wow.
Because he had seen some advertisement for something, we hadn't seen like Jurassic Park or anything. He was like 4 years old, but he had seen an advertisement somewhere. Right. And it scared him. And that was his nightmare. And I kept being like, your room's like, but it was like, Daddy's not here. And what if a dinosaur? And I was like, I cannot believe I'm arguing over like a dinosaur coming to your room. But for him, it was so real and so true because he would go to bed and he would think it. So then as soon as I gave him something where he was like, see, now no dinosaurs. And it was almost like I needed to sit there and validate that a little bit. And as an adult, you just want to go, oh, it's fine. Come on, let's go. And the reality is he wanted to be heard and he wanted to feel that permission to feel that emotion. And it's okay to be scared. And that happens. We just need to figure out how do we get past it? How do we give that up instead of sitting in it? And that was the biggest piece that as an exhausted mom and just trying to hold it all together, I was missing for a minite. I really missed a lot of that until I kind of said, you know what? That is scary. That must be really frightening for you. Tell me, And he was like, thank you. Because he's a little 4-year-old, but like he wanted to share what it felt like for him. So
yeah, I mean, in his world, it was the scariest thing. He thought it was going to actually happen. A dinosaur was going to come in the room. And, even through your exhaustion, you put yourself in his shoes and you thought, what, in his little world, like this is the biggest, scariest thing in it. And so I just love how you sit with that and allow him to feel what he feels and acknowledging that. There's a quote I heard before, I'm going to butcher it, but it goes something like, people just want to be seen, heard, and understood. They don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be told what to do. They just need to be seen as they are. They need to feel seen. And so I think it's so great that you saw that as a parent, and then you have the book, and then you have the Brave Knights, and to be able to transfer that reassurance from you as a mother to the Brave Knight. It's revolutionary, I'm sure, for the entire family.
It was. And it took me a minute. Yeah. And that quote is exactly what I got to was that's exactly what it was. Because for the longest time, it was weeks and I was like, you're fine. Like, I just need you to go to bed. Come on, you gotta be brave. Like, it was like, trying everything. And finally I was like, and like, I was so in it that I couldn't, it's kind of, if you use like the military thing, I was in the middle of that battle and I was like, I need to take a step back and see that there is a plan out of here. I can't just keep looking one step in front because I'm not getting anywhere. And I thought, gosh, I got to look at the broader picture. And that was it. It was that silly little sign that thought, I need to give him what I would need, right? As I want to be seen, I want to be heard. And that teacher gave that to me. She looked at me and asked me, and I was like, wow, it was just this sweet moment that kind of connected everything for me. And I went home and made that based on that quote, basically not realizing it, but that same thing of like, let him feel what he's feeling. Let me tell him it's okay. And that must be scary, and just validate it. And it seems silly, but we just often brush over that for our kids. Like, you'll be fine. Just hop in the car. You'll be fine. You should be fine.
Oh yeah.
You gotta go. Get in the car. You're busy and you're tired. And, but yeah, no, I love that so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to instill that at a young age, because then you end up like someone like me who like when they get to their 30s and they finally seek out therapy and they have to unpack all these things from their childhood.
Yeah.
So I'm curious now that your son is 17, have you seen how that practice of autonomy at a young age has translated to who he is today?
Yes. I think the Brave Knights worked a little bit too much. He is not afraid of much. Wants to go into the military, probably go in Army as well. I mean, definitely military, but most likely Army, and wants to follow his father's footsteps into SF. And I laugh and joke all the time where he does these crazy things. And I'm like, maybe it worked too well, but he wants to be able to serve his country, which I appreciate. I appreciate his desire to serve, and service above self is huge in our family. It's woven into our business. It's woven into every little inch and fabric of our family. And I appreciate that. But I do see he had some real serious medical stuff when he was young, past this point when he wasn't sleeping in like his middle childhood. And while Brave Knights were with him when we went to appointments and in the hospitals and stuff, but the confidence he came where he didn't run from fear. He would say, okay, I can do this. And we would talk about it and how do we get through it? And it was just those little building blocks that we learned from the simple little thing of like not being afraid of a dinosaur, being strong enough to know that we could keep ourselves safe, to now he knows he makes really smart, calculated decisions, and he's a very critical thinker, and he's a great sleeper.
Yeah, most of all,
he's a great sleeper, and he is like 6'2" and a big, strong guy. And I laugh at the little pictures of him, little like chubby, full fear in his little eyes and his little bottom lip quivering over, get your jammies on, Cooper, and fear would wash over him. And now we met a very inspiring guy not too long ago, and we laughed, and he's military SF. And he said, I think your bear might have done too much for this one. And I was like laughing about it. But I love that he has that confidence in himself now. It's been great to see. And the lessons he learned at a young age, I think has carried through. And my older children who didn't have that fear at nighttime still love their Brave Knights and brought them into things. And so we talk about it now about get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's okay. Feel it. And then let's find a plan and path through it instead of just sitting in it. And that's been a big message for them because, military life can throw those challenges at you, and you got to be okay to pivot and be uncomfortable and then go, this too will pass. This is one little season, we'll get through it. So,
yeah. I think when we think about like the stress response, like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, the last thing you want to do in the military is freeze. Like that's just incredibly detrimental. So to be able to teach how to respond to a stressful, anxiety-driven, fearful situation, I mean, that's everything. That translates to life for sure. And so I'm just glad to hear that it worked too well for your son, that he's self-sufficient, he's a critical thinker, and most of all, he wants to follow in his father's footsteps.
Yeah. It's been neat to see. It's funny. If you could have asked me then what I thought he would have done, or, you don't think about it when they're little. It's like, please get some sleep tonight. And now I look back and think, oh my goodness. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your husband, I know that your husband actually was a huge catalyst to making Brave Knights into a business. Okay. So let's go back to that time when you didn't wake up and say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like this was really just out of a desire to help your son and your family sleep better. So let's go back to that time.
Yeah. So I always say I'm kind of a reluctant entrepreneur. I meet so many powerhouse entrepreneurs, and honestly, mostly female, that I am blown away by. They've had this driven vision of like, this is what I want to do. And that's not me. I have a master's in psychology. I am a coach for softball. I'm a collegiate softball coach. This has just not been on my radar at all. So when it worked, when I created the Brave Knights and it worked and we slept, my husband immediately was like, this is amazing. You should do something with it. And of course, so supportive and so sweet. And I was like, nah, it's fine. We're sleeping. That's enough. That's a win-win for me. Yeah. And then we started making it for friends and family. And he kind of kept being in the back of my ear, like, you should do something. And I was so used to being the support system in our family and the kind of behind the scenes, and which I was happy with that role. And I loved it. I just didn't think I had, the skills that I needed. And honestly, the funny thing, based on what we were just talking about, the fear of failure was my biggest thing. Is this little product had been so sweet for me and brought such a gift to my family of sleep and peace that I was so afraid that I wouldn't do it justice and it would fail and it would break my heart. And so that fear held me back, that fear of like leaning into this and trying something new and bold that I'd never done. And so we talked about it. He would come home from work and we would put the kids to bed, they'd be sleeping, and we would talk about this as an idea. And it was always in the back of my mind. And he brought home Stephanie Brown, from the Rosie Network, was speaking years ago in our area, and he found it online and printed off a piece of paper with her picture on it and brought it home. And he goes, "This is an amazing entrepreneur. I read about her. You should go and listen to her talk, and you should try to talk to her." And I immediately was like, "Oh my gosh, no. Like, she's awesome, but like, what is she going to talk to? Like, yeah, we're going to Oprah. Like, no, I'm not. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm not." And he kept going, you should do it. And it didn't work out anyway with our schedule where I could get in, but I kept her photo on my desk. And it was always one of those things where I would think about, and I would say, "Gosh, I don't know. Can I do it?" And I would look at it, I would look her up, and I would do some research, and I was like, I don't know. And then finally I read a book one day. We were in Barnes & Noble with my boys in the children's book section. And I read this book about what to do with an idea. And it's so sweet and so touching. And it's about this little idea. It's like a little egg, and it grows and it grows. And it's like, sometimes you have an idea and you shove it inside and you keep it hidden because you're afraid of what will happen. But if you feed it and nourish it, it could grow, and it could grow into this great thing, and it's going to follow you everywhere. And one day it could grow into something that might change somebody's life. And I was in the Barnes & Noble, and my boy snuggled in my lap, and I was like crying, going, "Okay, universe, I get it. I get it. I have a secret idea that I've had and I've been working on." And I went home, and I sat down at my desk, and Stephanie's picture was right there. And I was like, "That's it." And that was my first day that I made the call to find somebody to help mentor me through this and find a designer who could help me create from what I had created, this little rudimentary teddy bear, into what the Brave Prints are now. And it took a long time. The sleep that my boys had at night, those hours of sleep that they had at night, gave me the time to actually create the Brave Nights and bring it to existence. And I started to write the book, and I started to design the flashlight. And we just had to learn with my husband how to create products from nothing and bring them here and launch a website. And the help with the Rosie Network has been instrumental. We would not be where we were today. We went through Service to CEO, was the first program we went through to kind of learn all of the things we needed to know. It was like our MBA was through Rosie Network and Service to CEO, and their support has been amazing. And at our graduation, I got to talk to Stephanie Brown and tell her the story about how she has been with me from the very beginning until when we graduated from that. And it's been such a special experience. I'm so thankful for her and the guidance that the Rosie Network has been given to us.
It fills my heart to hear that, because I think what makes the Service to CEO program so unique is it's very hands-on. And I've spoken to other graduates who, they'll start with a big class of other cohort members, and within weeks it shrinks very quickly. So the fact that you stuck it out all the way and actually applied it, and, you're very involved in it. It wasn't just, you weren't just showing up to learn about entrepreneurship 101. It was like, okay, we're going to do this. I've had Stephanie's photo for quite some time now.
Yes.
So I think it's about time.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a beautiful thing to hear. And, credit to your husband for having recommended this to you so many years ago. And I do recall from your showcase that at the time, and I'm actually, maybe you can tell me, because with the pitch deck, I imagine that they teach you how to ask for funding. Mm-hmm. And so how did that turn out for you, that video? Like, were you able to use your pitch deck, your showcase, to potential investors?
Yes. So that was the first time I kind of created a pitch deck. I learned our value proposition. We created our mission statement. It was like actionable things that we did through Service to CEO. It was not just time. I've been through other kind of programs where sometimes it just feels like it's filler. This was, I actually created my pitch deck, and it's morphed and grown, but I have used that pitch deck in so many different pitch competitions. I just competed in
Love it.
Through Rosie Network, gave me the lead on it. They send out stuff to everybody, and I ended up coming in fourth and getting some funding just 2 weeks ago.
Wow, congrats.
Yes, thank you. I won the Military Influencer Entrepreneur Pitch Competition at the Military Influencer Conference in 2022.
Wonderful.
I've been able to get into Warrior Rising's Academy and make it through to top 5 and pitch there. So I've pitched now just on screens in front of people virtually. I've pitched in rooms of thousands of people, hundreds of people, pitched in live audience with judges panel right there in a Shark Tank kind of like situation, all because it came from the pitch deck that I first created in Service to CEO. And so it's been, we would not be here. We would not have received any funding or anything if I hadn't been through that. That was from the first photo that my husband brought home to him saying, hey, here, sir, as the CEO, you need to apply and try to get in it, to our first pitch deck, to all the funding. It would not be possible without the support and help from the Rosie Network, for sure. 100%.
Wow. Well, that's a big shout out to the team there at the Rosie Network. And, my husband, he was part of one of the first cohorts, I think back in 2016, 2017. And it definitely wasn't what it is today. So it's just so great to hear how applicable it is, and how you come out of it as refined as you can be as a new entrepreneur. Yeah. And I just want to say kudos to all your success and how you keep putting yourself out there, which I did want to ask about that, because I was looking at one of the Amazon reviews and someone was talking about how they found you on Amazon. Like they were trying to just do a desperate act of finding something to help their kids sleep. So tell us about the marketing side. I mean, clearly you've been in press in many various ways and you've been pitching Brave Nights for some time, but tell us your strategy to get in front of people and especially the right people.
It's been hard. I mean, we've had to learn and change and grow and adapt with our marketing strategy and social media. Luckily, our main character, our target audience is moms. So we try to get in front of them with our social media presence. So that video is so touching that we got through the service CEO graduation. It's amazing. It's very poignant. We have moms in there, actual customers of ours, true stories of moms' accounts, which I think is the best, most authentic way, is to show a mom to a mom telling about it. We try to just be very honest about it, showing that this is backed in science. There's real psychology behind it and how it can help. But we're learning and growing and pivoting. It's been really organic. We have not done any paid advertising or social media. Wow. We just don't have the budget for it. It would be fantastic if I did, but marketing can be really expensive through that. So we're growing small but steady. And thank goodness for the ability to reach moms with their phone, right? And word of mouth has been huge. Military base and we're big in the military community, but often our customers that find us on Amazon are just civilian families who are struggling. Right now, it's up to 50% of young children suffer with sleep issues, according to the CDC. It really is an epidemic for our kids right now. And so there are a ton of moms out there. It's just a matter of trying to find them and get that information there. So it's hard. Big task.
Yeah. And, I think we underestimate the power of word of mouth marketing. I mean, if it's free, it's for me, right? And the fact that people can, especially satisfied customers, I think having satisfied customers talk about your product is so much more impactful than, maybe just an ad. And so, but nonetheless, I know that marketing is an ongoing thing. It's kind of like keeping a fire alive and you have to put like wood in it every now and then to keep it going. So it sounds like you're continuously doing that. I mean, hence why you're here chatting with me
That's a great example
today. Yeah. And so I just think it's interesting to always ask that because, I think the last thing that a lot of entrepreneurs think is they have this great idea, they want to implement it, but then now you have to sell it. Now you have to put it out there and you have to keep putting it out there. It's not just a one and done. Like you may have been featured in something, but just like with any like news site, eventually it gets lost in the noise of other news. And so you have to keep going out there. And so it's great to hear that you are continuously doing that while being a mom, while being a wife, and just everything that comes with the life that you live. Like I'm incredibly impressed and in awe of your work, Colleen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a hustle. It is a hustle. And I remind myself every day, that I could do hard things. I do it every day. I could do hard things. This is one more hard thing. And, when I first had that, can I do this? Am I afraid to fail? I was like, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail like I do in everything. I fail at as being a mom. I fail at being a wife sometimes. I fail at a daughter. I fail at all these things, but I also succeed. And I needed to remind myself of that, right? There's nothing in life is worth it if you don't have some failure to overcome something. Nothing good's ever going to come easy. And so every time that we run into a little bit of a wall, I remind myself, all right, that's the failure that I need. That's that roadblock that's going to push me so we can succeed. And that's what keeps me going. It sometimes feels like you're on a treadmill and you're not going anywhere. And other times you're like, oh, I got my stride and things are going good. And it's a long process, but I remind myself that I'm going to fail and succeed usually every day in some part of this. And I just have to kind of keep going and keep putting one foot in front of the other and know that if it helps one family, one child sleep and feel confident and brave, and one mom feel like she has a battle buddy with her, then I'll push through a little bit. One more step, I can do it,
Yeah. I love that. I love the baby steps that you tell yourself. And I could definitely relate on how like being self-employed, it sometimes feels like you're just on a hamster wheel and you're not going anywhere. And like you have a whole day, like I'll have a whole day where I've clocked in all these hours and I'm like, did I even accomplish anything? So I just commend you for your commitment, for your hustle. It's not easy being an entrepreneur, let alone a reluctant one, one that didn't plan on being an entrepreneur to begin with. So that being said, I wanted to ask you for, any aspiring military connected entrepreneur that, wants to take that leap or inquire, what do you want to say to them?
I want to say you can do hard things. You can do this. And I think we're uniquely qualified for this role. And I wish I would have given myself that credit kind of before of all the things that we handle. I don't think that there's any group of people who are more qualified to be able to be an entrepreneur than someone military connected because of just all the change and the pivots and the ability to handle things that are out of your control and roll with it and succeed. It's amazing. I was initially when we first started and I finally got the confidence to do this, so many people I would reach out to who were not military connected. Often they were older male entrepreneurs, business people that I knew, and they painted a picture where my sweet little teddy bear became Chucky and ruined my life. In fact, multiple of them they were in the toy industry. So multiple of them would say like, you have a nice life. Your husband's got a good job. Why do you want to do this? And I listened to it for a minute, right? And it was like, and I was like, now whenever anybody talks to me and they say, I want to do something, I'm like, do it. Nobody will be more passionate about this than you will be. Do it. Believe in yourself, believe in your product, believe in what you can do and you can accomplish it. And I love it when an entrepreneur, someone who has just in the ideation phase comes to me. I'm like, do it. How can I help you? Here's the pitfalls I went through. Here's this. And I think a rising tide lifts all boats. When someone succeeds, they help someone else and pay it forward. And I never give a message of don't do it. I explain it's going to be hard and here's the things we'll watch out for. But oh my goodness, like to see someone else succeed, there's no greater joy than to watch someone accomplish something that they had, that's just to me is what kind of helps. And I think, again, it's at service to others. And I think that's why our community is so strong in entrepreneurship. And I love to see that, especially the military spouses, veterans. I know a ton of veteran entrepreneurs just through this process, and they have a much larger network because there's so many more veteran entrepreneurs out there than military spouses, but we're growing. And Stephanie Brown, I just watched yesterday, she posted something about being in front of Congress talking about this. It's amazing. It's a small but mighty, and we're growing and we're doing outrageously cool things. And it's neat to see our community kind of get the recognition it needs and grow, because I just think that people are going to be amazed by what we can offer.
Yeah. I mean, ditto to everything you said. I just think about my own upbringing as a military kid to now being with my veteran husband and having worked in the military space. And I think that the military community just feels like home. It feels like the community that keeps on giving because, like you said, there's that service-oriented mindset. And it's not that easy to find so much in the civilian world, not a knock in the civilian world, but more so just an observation, like where I feel more drawn to, so thank you for just saying all that. And I hope that for any spouse or any person affiliated with the military who may feel like they cannot do something, I think you just really nailed it to pointing out what are our strengths. Like we do have this ability because we're adaptable. We have this ability to be an entrepreneur. We have the traits. We just have to be told that we have it and, go for it and see what's possible. And obviously the Rosie Network is a great place to get started with that.
Yeah. And there's so many resources out there now, so much even just since we started. It's fantastic to see the support and resources. So join a group, seek out, talk to people, reach out on social media to another military spouse entrepreneur, veteran entrepreneur. And I've never had one in our military community through any social media, LinkedIn, ever not get back to you. It is this sweet community that lifts each other up. And so reach out, try something. Yeah.
I love that. Well, Colleen, I asked everything I wanted to ask you. I feel like we had a very holistic conversation today. So any final thoughts or anything else I should be asking you before we go?
No, just if any of your listeners know anyone who has a child or grandchild who's struggling with sleep, please tell them to check us out. You can find us on Amazon, on Spousely, or on our website, magicordarbravenights.com. We donate a portion of all of our proceeds to the Stephen Seller Tunnel Towers Foundation that helps other Gold Star family members like our own. I'm a Gold Star sister, and this foundation is phenomenal. We knew we wanted to give back as part of our business since the very beginning. And we've been donating to them even when we weren't making profit, we're still donating to them. The months that we are making profit, it didn't matter. It was something really near and dear to our heart to help out other Gold Star family members. And just remember that great days start with brave nights.
I love it. Well, Colleen, thank you again for your time. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today here at Holding on the Fort by US VetWealth. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this so much.
My pleasure. Hey there. This is your host, Jen Amos. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of Holding on the Fort by US VetWealth. Visit holdingonthefortpodcast.com to access the full show notes of this episode, including resources mentioned and bonus content. Once again, the website is holdingonthefortpodcast.com. Lastly, stay after the outro for a little something extra. Thanks again, and chat soon. Bye for now. All right, hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for hanging out in the outro. I'll give you a fun fact. I don't actually know what I'm talking about until it's the outro. I don't actually know what I'm going to talk about till I'm actually here. And I got to say, it was really nice speaking with Colleen. Fun fact, she actually was supposed to join us for last year. I think it was like last year, the last fall season. And, life be lifing, because that's the military. And fortunately, we were able to actually bring her on here for the fall season. So really, really enjoyed having her. I got to tell you, looking up the Brave Knights, looking up Sir William, the teddy bear, I would say that, this is definitely something I would want for my own kids. So if you haven't checked it out already, make sure you check out her website. It's in the show notes of this episode, but you could also just go to magicalorderofbraveknights.com. Check that out, magicalorderofbraveknights.com. And it's super cute. And I was just reading all the reviews on it and just really love seeing parents who were just so grateful to have an ally, to have a partner, to have a teammate in helping their child sleep better at night. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Of course, if you want any bonus material from Holding Down the Fort, if you care to hear what I have to talk about at all, anything about the show, about the journey of producing a podcast, of my entrepreneurial journey, you're more than welcome to join our free portal, which is holdingonthefortpodcast.com/portal. And there you'll get access to our free private podcast, Inside the Fort, where it's what it sounds. It's inside the fort. It's what goes on in Jen's head in producing the show. And I think it's great for people who are interested in podcasting or are also aspirational entrepreneurs looking for inspiration. I love that. Anyway, I'm just laughing at myself. Wow. Okay, thanks for listening, and we'll chat with you in the next episode. Tune in next time.